Hello everyone, it's Mitchell Ryan Darcy here with a mediocre review. The movie just didn't perform as well as the studio hoped. And that is Solo, a Star Wars movie, which is the second of the newer prequels. First prequel of the newer ones of Star Wars was Rogue One, which was I thought was very good for what it was, and I really liked how it sort of bridges the gap between the movies, and on its own was actually a decent film overall. Han Solo prequel, not really excited. What I am excited for this movie is Danny Glover as Orlando Calrissian. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what YouTube comments are there for, just to point out every mistake. Excited to see what he brings to the role. And from what I hear, this movie is like a crime heist type movie. So, but it's in the Star Wars universe, so it should be at the very. I'm not really going to compare it to the rest of Star Wars. This time movie, I may compare it to Rogue One, but overall, I'm gonna approach it as if it was like one of those low budget heist movies that you don't know what you're don't know how good it's going to be until you see it. The guy who plays Vision in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Jarvis in the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he is a great actor. So having him cast as what I believe is the villain role in this movie, it should be interesting. So it's the two casting things I'm excited for. A part of me is gonna be it's kind of like Justice League going into it. It's like it's that sort of situation where the directors change during production, and in this instance, I'm actually quite. I want to find out what's different and all that, because originally you had, I think, the two guys who did the Lego movie. I could be mistaken. And they were doing this movie originally, and they filmed a lot of the movie and all that, and then literally Disney and Star Wars was like, we don't really like the way you're doing it, and ended up firing them. So it's like, wow. I'm like, what's apparently they were like, it's a little too jokey, a little too comedic or something like that. So it's like, what was wrong with having a comedic Star Wars movie? Ron Howard took over for it. So, and Ron Howard's a good director, but he basically jumped onto a production that was basically almost finished. So I don't think a lot of them. I don't think I would consider this a Ron Howard film. Just overall, like in the same way Justice League was more. Well, in Justice League's case, there's a noticeable amount of changes between Zack Snyder and Josh Whedon. Some of it blur. Like, I think this might be one of those movies where I'm just thinking, oh, it's like, what would have been if the original director stayed on and Disney liked what they were doing? I'm gonna try not thinking about it too much. Time to watch Solo, a Star Wars story, if they're still calling it that for prequels for Star Wars. I just call it the Han Solo movie. It's the Han Solo movie. Let's face it. Well, it's actually now the day after watching Solo, a Star Wars story. It was more later showing, and I kind of just wanted to go to bed. But my initial reaction was basically, I actually really enjoyed Solo, a Star Wars story. Like, I was very entertained by this movie from start to finish. It was very interesting where what they did with it. I went into it not really expecting anything except for a heist film, and that's basically what I got. I mean, I really dislike looking up reviews before finishing my filming of my review, but I just couldn't resist, and I just wanted to know what other people thought of the movie, and there's so many negative views about this movie, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, did I watch the same movie as these horrible reviews? Like, yeah, I thought the movie was fun, and just there was a lot that surprised me about this film. Like, literally, if I had a list of the top 10 movies that I've seen this year for the first time, um, this would be number 2 for the most surprises I had while watching the film. Like, number 1 is Avengers Infinity War. If it wasn't for that film, this movie had, for me, the most surprises. And I don't know if it's because I went into it with such low expectation, or I mean, I liked how the movie moved along at a brisk pace, delivered on the crime heist portion of it. Like, I don't know what people expect. Like, it is in the Star Wars universe, but the whole point of these side things that Disney's doing is eventually they will do movies in the Star Wars universe that doesn't involve the main Star Wars event, and this is a stepping stone towards that. And if this movie did, I think, okay enough, but like I don't know if it didn't really bomb, but still, it wasn't doing as good as everyone was like, oh, Star Wars, it's guaranteed $1 billion, so it's like, I guess their expectations were too high with this film. I like Harrison Ford's Han Solo, and this Han Solo was good enough. Nothing, I think he fit the part just pretty much okay. Like, the guy who plays Han Solo, he did a just good enough job. Like, I had no complaints with what the performance he did, and same with the rest of the cast. There was a lot of the movie I loved, and so this was a really fun movie. Did I mention it was a fun movie? Like, it wasn't absolute fun, but it just was, it was fun enough. I enjoyed this film a lot more than Rogue One. And Rogue One I loved. I thought that was extremely good overall in what it did and what it accomplished. Han Solo was more just, it was a more interesting, fun sort of spin-off. That's that's what it is. It doesn't, there are problems with Solo, a Star Wars movie, but for me, it was good enough. I didn't expect this movie to have that much weight, and it didn't really have that much weight, but to the Star Wars franchise in general. But to me, it didn't really need to have that much weight. When watching the film, I didn't actually have a problem with them replacing the directors and all that, because the film itself, it didn't appear it suffered. Like, it wasn't like Justice League, where it's like, I can tell there's a drastic change between scenes or stuff like that, or Fantastic Four, or Fan Four Stick, as the internet calls it, with the reshoots there and all that. Like, I didn't notice it. It did feel more streamlined, but then again, it didn't feel that risky of a movie, where apparently the directors were doing something totally different than what was actually asked of them. So I would have still loved to see that, but knowing Disney, we're never going to see any of that footage. So just given the film that we got, I still really enjoyed Solo, a Star Wars movie. The war aspects of Star Wars, it wasn't light, it wasn't dark. It was just a really interesting balance, and I just really liked the dialogue. And like, the dialogue to me, like, it kind of felt like because the directors who got kicked off, they were more comedic and that sort of thing. I mean, they did the Lego movie. That movie's funny as hell. I think some of that shines through, but it's just, it makes me wonder, it's like, because the majority of the movie, apparently the script was the same when Ron Howard took over, so it's like reshooting most of it. It's like, how drastically filmed were those scenes? Like, that it would change, that Disney thought would change the end product. Like, I love the train scene, I love the mine scene with them starting a rebellion. I like the characters, I like the new characters that they had, and the old characters being shown another side of, and all that, and seeing some of the history Star Wars wise that we only, heard about in the original trilogy and all that. It was interesting seeing an actual visual representation of it. There's these little weird moments in the film that, even though I thought they were weird, they didn't really feel totally out of place. I really enjoyed Solo, and I would be tempted to actually pick it up when it comes out. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed Solo Star Wars movie, and I'm not afraid to admit it on the internet. So tear me a new hole down in the comments below if you absolutely despise this movie. And let me know in the comments below if you're one of the people who actually thought this was a decent film. Or maybe you're one of the few people who actually thinks this is the best film ever. Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I want you to have a nice day or night or whatever time you watch this. Have a nice whatever. Thanks again for watching. And I don't know what I'm going to review next.